Hi, my name is Yuganis Varman Balan. My metric number is 143470. And today we are going to talk about career planning using SWOT analysis. Now, this career plan is my own career plan using the SWOT analysis. So, before we go into the slide presentation, I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Yuganis Varman, as mentioned. I am from School of Physics and I'm majoring in engineering physics. So in engineering physics, we normally learn about electronics and photonics materials, which are supposedly the focus of this course. Now, apart from that, we also learn basic physics and also advanced physics, as well as a lot of advanced mathematics as well. So as for my minor, I learned computer science, which focuses heavily on programming, especially the language C, C++, Java, and also Python. Apart from programming, we also learn about how the network works, such as the internet, and also we also did learn about database as well. So the reason why I am introducing a bit about myself is because all this information would be helpful for my career plan using SWOT analysis later on. So with that covered, let's find out what is SWOT analysis. So SWOT analysis is a strategic planning technique that provides assessment tools. Now we are going to analyze anything basically businesses related things, which is the general idea where SWOT analysis is applied. So usually when we apply this SWOT analysis, we will look into four aspects. The four aspects are SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So when we identify all this, we can get a fact-based analysis, which would offer fresh perspective and also can generate new ideas. Now, SWOT analysis can assess the performance, competition risk, and also potential of a business, as well as part of a business, such as a product line or division, an industry, or any other entity. Now, this is just a general idea of where SWOT analysis is applied, but we will look into how SWOT analysis is applied in my career planning later on. So, essentially, this is how the SWOT analysis is implemented. We can look at the left, which is strength. So in strengths, we look into internal positive aspects that are under our control that we can take advantage of during the planning later. But for weaknesses, it is an internal negative aspect that are still under our control, and we can plan on to improve it. And if you look at the bottom part, we have opportunities and threats. So for opportunities, opportunities are positive external conditions that we cannot control. It is out of our control because it's our external aspect. But we can plan to take advantage on sales. Now, as for threats, it is also an external condition, but negative external condition that we cannot control, but we may be able to try to lessen it. Now, the basic thing is that we see that strengths and weaknesses are under our control. This is because it is an internal aspect. As for opportunities and threats, there are external conditions that we cannot control. But since we know them, we may take advantage and maybe lessen them. So let's look into my career plan and how SWOT analysis is applied in it. So let's look into the first aspect, which is strength. So my first strength is that I studied courses related to electronics and photonics. Now, since I'm taking engineering physics as my major, I get to study electronics and photonics materials. And when I go into the electronic industries out there, they could take me in because of my degree, because I studied these components, about how they work and how to synthesize them and so on. So this knowledge could be very, very useful because this electronics industry out there, they might be looking for graduates who can work with the components, who can also innovate these components to become better in the future. So I could be at a good advantage here. Apart from that, I also had 1 year experience in oxide semiconductor synthesis, which is for my final year project. So the oxide semiconductor is an alternative to a semiconductor, but most of the time out there, people usually look for semiconductor industries. And if there are industries that want to focus on oxide semiconductor, which is an alternative to semiconductors, I could be at an advantage too, and they could accept me to work there because of my experience synthesizing this semiconductor. And also, I spent a good amount of time in the laboratory to synthesize this product. Apart from that, I also have programming skills in Python, C, and C++. Now, industries out there always are looking for graduates with good programming skills, especially in Python, because we are currently dealing with big data. And if you want to extract information from big data, Python is the one that is used most of the time. And once you extract information from the big data, you can perform a good analysis on this extracted information. Now, apart from that, I also have a lot of soft skills, especially leadership and also management skills, because of my involvement in a club committee. So I was involved in Astronomy Club USM for 3 years. Now, I was the vice president in the second year, and during the third year, I was one of the senior advisors of the club. Now, because of my experience in this club, I get to know how to interact with my team better, meaning I could do a lot of activities, tasks, assignments with them, and also I can plan with them effectively. And I also learned how to lead a group of people to effectively plan an event as well. Apart from that, because of my involvement in this club, I also learned how to work with a team. Now, working with a team is something of a hassle itself because there are few people in the team and I do not know them, but I really need to know what they are good at so that I can assign the task to them. And eventually, when you are good at teamwork skills, you also should be good at good communication as well. Because when you're communicating with other people, especially your colleagues in the future, you need to be effective at it so that you can make sure that your message is sent to the employee, or basically whatever you want to say, they understand. That's one of my strengths as well. So that is it for strength. So now let's look at my weaknesses. My first weakness is that I do not have any industrial experience in electronic field. Now let's say I'm applying for a job where it requires you to have some experience in an electronic industry. So let's say my competitor here has at least an internship experience in the industrial field of the electronic industry. So at that point, I would be really at a disadvantage because the employee would find it easy to communicate and give tasks to the other employee, the other competitor, because he at least has some experience in the field. Apart from that, I'm also a procrastinator. So when you're a procrastinator, you always postpone the work until it nears the deadline. And whenever it nears the deadline, I always produce work with lesser quality. And I really need to improve on that as well. Thirdly, I am a slow learner. So when it comes to learning, I realized I always want to dive in deep into the topic by looking into many resources. And whenever I want to learn something new, I always sleep on that problem or the concept for a very long time until I have my eureka moment where I completely understand the topic. So usually, because of the process I go through to learn something, I eventually take longer time than normal people. And lastly, I have inability to multitask, which means I cannot focus on one or two or three jobs at one time. This is because I can only focus on one job at one time. If I were to focus on two different jobs at one time, I cannot produce a quality job. So that is it for my weaknesses. So now let's look into the opportunities, which is one of the external factors. So the first opportunity is that the positive growth in electronics industries in Malaysia. So in 2019, Malaysia actually had a big export amount for electronics. So this means that in Malaysia, electronics industries are doing pretty well, and I would have a good and healthy opportunity to go out there and get jobs. Apart from that, I can also have opportunities to advance and diversify in electronics industries. This is because, well, electronics industry is a diverse industry. We have so many aspects to look at. So there's like semiconductor, there's ceramic, there's LED and all that, so on. So because of this, I can always diversify my experience after maybe working in an industry for 3 to 4 years. Apart from that, I can also go into research and development in electronics. This is due to my experience doing finding a project in solar cell. So I studied solar cell. This means that maybe I can extend my research into the R&D sector one day later. Apart from that, since I have a minor in computer science, I can also enter the computer science or programming job market in the future later. Now, all I have to have is a good programming background, and the extra things will be taught by the company themselves. So there is a good opportunity for me to enter the computer science job market if I did not get to enter the electronics job market. So now let's look at the threat. So the first threat is that the competitors could have gone to better universities and could have had better CGPAs than me. So when the employees look at the difference in CGPAs or the difference in the quality of the schools that we went to, maybe the other competitor might have a better chance at getting the job than I am. So the third threat is that the changes in the politics of the country. So when there is a change in politics, and there will be a change in government too. When there's a change in government, maybe the government will start taxing the new industries, the industries out there. So this means that once the companies have to deal with high taxes, they may not be able to pay as much to the employees. So this will eventually lead to employees getting low payment. Other than that, there are also other countries that could emerge as better world factory for electronics than Malaysia itself. So, such as China, once they emerge as better world factory, these may mean that we would be living in a place, staying in a workplace that would not guarantee your permanent workplace there. So now that we have already looked into SWOT analysis, let's look at how we can overcome my weaknesses or lessen the threat. So the first one is procrastination. So since I always procrastinate my work, and this is due to the fact that I feel demotivated to do any task until the deadline nears. So I could maybe change the work environment I am in. Say maybe I assign places such as coffee shops or libraries to do my assignments. So I can take my work and do it in a different place so that I'll have a motivation to do it there. And besides, I can also try to switch off my phone to avoid any distractions so that I can continue doing my task. Apart from that, I can also prioritize my tasks. So I can have a list of tasks from the most priority to the least priority and get it done one by one and eventually finish it. So apart from that, due to no industrial experience, I can try to ask for internships in different industries to diversify my experience. So since a lot of industries nowadays do allow you to do internships there, maybe I can already go for a few months of internship just to gain a few experiences from working in the different engineering sections, departments in that industry. Apart from that, I can also get entry-level jobs and grow my experience. So this means that I need to put up with maybe low pay, and this is good because I need to learn and get experiences first in order to move a step further into getting better pay. Apart from that, if I have better competitors, that means I have to be better than them too, which means I need to grow and learn new skills, maybe skills such as data analytics and so on. Apart from that, I can also further my studies into master programs, which means I can equip myself with more knowledge on the sector, such as electronics and so on. So after looking at the SWOT analysis, I have come up with my future career development plan. So I'm going to focus at three aspects. The first one is upskilling myself. So this is by actively learning and getting better at programming. This means that I may want to learn more of Python and how to apply it in data analytics so that I could deal with the big data in the future. Apart from that, I also want to learn how to use different machines for electronic component production. This is because different industries will have to use different machines to produce their electronic components. And lastly, I want to step into different industries and diversify my experience. Well, when you want to jump into different industries, the employers will want to see if you are from different backgrounds. Meaning, if you have different kind of experiences in different electronic industries, then maybe you are more likely to get hired by your employer in a different in a different company. Apart from that, I also want to learn how to innovate. So in Malaysia, one of the biggest problems is that a lot of the engineers do not know how to innovate their products. So this means that the products will always stay the same, even though it's already a few years into the future. So I want to know how to innovate the product, which means I need to better equip myself with the tools I need to innovate, which is knowledge and also research experience from my master's degree. And lastly, I want to join the research and development section because I want to become a researcher to study electronic components and develop them into better ones in the future. So that is it for my future career development plan, and that is all from for my slide. So thank you for listening.